Good morning. This is Constantine Salameh again, and I'll be taking you through the third workshop on crisis management. Now remember, the first one we covered the importance of financial management and the importance of cash flow management and ensuring that you understand what are these cash flow gaps. We then went in on risk management. So this is quite important for you to understand the risk areas that you're facing, to prioritize these risk areas, to be able to map those risk areas, and to be able then to develop the mitigation plan and incorporate them in your performance management network. This is quite critical. Now, once you have this crisis management plan, once you have clarity in terms of what your priorities needs to be on it, you need to make sure that you are aligning your people and your stakeholders. Because if you fail to do so, you will not be able to execute. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the quality of your crisis management plan. It's not about the quality of your risk management plan. It's to ensure that all your stakeholders are aligned, have contributed to it, feel that they are part owning it, and are here to be able to implement it. So the alignment of your stakeholder is a critical element in every crisis management plan, and it's your role as the leader to ensure that you're aligning your people and your stakeholders. And I will share with you how we go through this process. So USAID and the LED have sponsored this initiative. It's one of many initiatives that they have sponsored in helping to create jobs in Lebanon and helping to make sure that we provide technical assistance to companies who are looking for job opportunities and would need to have either a market study, a certification process go through. So this is part of these initiatives that have been funded by USAID. So this is again the same sort of slides, but different quotes. For each of these workshops, I use a different quote. The quote here is one of the most effective leadership characteristics in moment of crisis is your ability to manage complex change management situation and align your stakeholders on the need for change, the direction and the roadmap for change and the resulting creation, value creation benefits. So your role here is not about the hard skill. The hard skill, cash flow management is a hard skill. Financial management is a hard skill. To be able to put together a risk management plan is a hard skill. Here, it's your soft skills. It's how good are you at listening? How good are you in helping people go through change? How good are you in providing constructive feedback? How good are you in establishing the trust between you and between your stakeholders? This is the most difficult leadership characteristics because it touches the heart and the mind of a number of the stakeholders that you have. So how do we go about it? The first is a series of questions. As a leader, if you look at what are the issues that you're facing, is your people might not understand who your customer is or your new customer segment is and what is our value proposition. Remember this, your USP. So your role here is to identify or maybe update or change what is my customer value proposition, what is my differentiation. This is one of the dimension in terms of leadership. The second one is about the culture. Your values might have changed. The crisis is forcing you to come up with different sets of values. What is this new culture? What are the new values that will be governing the way we're going to work? You as a leader needs to reflect on it and understand and how to do it. So the culture. The third one is about your communication. Once your strategy is clarified, how do you communicate? How do you communicate consistently? How do you communicate across different stakeholders? This is what I call strategy commitment or strategy communication. The fourth one is people are expecting you as a leader to tell them what is their role in this journey, the crisis management journey, what are the tools that are available to them, and how do you want to hold them accountable. This is about your leadership behavior. It's about ensuring that you have the right people, ensuring that you're providing them with the right support, ensuring them that you are open and transparent to them, ensuring them that you're here to be able to boost them whenever also they're making mistakes behind it. This is about leadership behavior. The fifth dimension is about holding people accountable. What are the performance metrics that you have, not only for you, but also for every single one in your organization? What is he or she accountable for in terms of metrics, or in terms of milestone. And this is what we define the performance milestones. And the last one is, do I have the right tools? Do I have the right process? Do I have the right systems in order to be able to do the job? And your role is to make sure that you are providing the tools and these processes for them to develop the job. So if we put it together, we have 6 dimensions. We have one dimension is about your customer value proposition. What makes you unique? The second one is on your leadership behavior. How good are you in hiring, mobilizing, and developing your people? The third one is on strategy commitment, communication, clearly, consistently, to the different stakeholders, one-on-one or in front of big groups. The fourth one is about the metrics. What are the metrics that you're going to hold yourself accountable and your people accountable? The fifth one is on your process, the tools, the structure, the system that you need, and at the heart of it is your culture, is the soul of the company, is your values. Now, your role as a leader, before we move, is to make sure that you have clarity on all these 6 dimensions, and your role as a leader is to make sure that these are aligned. Clarity on this question, alignment on this question, these are the foundation for ensuring that we could go through the crisis in a very efficient way. Now, how do we go about going through the crisis? So you have a step that you could do, you have your own ways. One is, if the culture needs to change, describe your current culture. So what is happening? You know, what is the desired culture? What is the culture that you would like to implement in your organization? And there is a gap. What is this gap? Is it a question of accountability? Is it in terms of the way you go about hiring your people? Is it the competencies that you have that are going to be different now because you need to differentiate from others? You need to define what is this gap. You also need to define, once you have the gap, how you're going to bridge this gap. Now, for all crises, being it personal crisis, being it a professional crisis, being it the country crisis that I've indicated in terms of financial, economic, social, banking crisis, governance crisis, all those crises share a similar path as we go through them. What is this path? The good news behind the path, you will say, Constantin, we have this crisis, it's very difficult. You need to know 2 things. One is the crisis has a beginning, and the crisis has an end. All crises will have a beginning and an end. In Arabic, we say, Kul hal yazul. So this crisis will have an end at one point in time. The second message is a number of our other countries around us who are going through or have gone through a very similar crisis and have emerged from it. So keep this in mind as you manage the crisis. So when you do, this is how people would behave. These people could be your staff. These people could be your customer. These people could be your suppliers that you do. The first phase is denial. It cannot happen. We have already a huge crisis in Lebanon. كمان عندنا pandemic. We have again on top of it corona cases. This is too much. So you have a lot of denial taking place. The second step is irritation, frustration. This is not acceptable. Very low motivation. You see the level of motivations going down. This is the law of the people, the law of their motivation, the law of the organization productivity. At one point in time, they will accept the situation. They will accept it, embrace it, deal with it, and then they will be engaged and continue on the path of growth and the path of transformation. These 4 phases are present in any crisis that we're going to face. Understand these 4 phases and understand your role, because your role as a leader is different in those phases. In this role is you have to state the facts. This is the crisis. This is the impact that it has on the organization. In this role, so you're here, you share information. In this role, you provide support. You let the people vent their anger. You don't try to suppress it, because if you try to suppress it now, it will hit you in 3 months, in 6 months down the road in an even stronger way. So your role here is to listen, to understand, let the people express it, let the concern emerge, listen to them, don't try to push it back. Here is about showing the future. This is what we are. This is where we're going. And here, it's about ensuring that people have the right level of motivation. So your role as a leader is going to differ around these 4 dimensions. Understand that all crises, people would react this way, stakeholders would react this way, and you need to adapt different management or leadership style on these things. So this is quite important. So how do you do it? You typically will have 4 different categories of people when you go through a crisis. You have one bucket of people that are acting as the victims. Why me? Why me again? It's always happening to me. I cannot take it anymore. You have others who are the critics. What he's trying to do or she's trying to do will not work. The risk management strategy will not work. The new priorities will not work, and I will prove the owner wrong on it. So these are the critics. You have the bystanders. They don't express. They look at which way the wind is blowing, and based on this, they will adapt or not adapt behind it. And then you have the navigators, the crisis management champion, the one that will take the crisis, accept the crisis, and then take and what are the right opportunities and go for these opportunities to change the organization to a leaner, more focused organization. You need to focus on those navigators, because with those navigators, you will be able to come and focus on the low-hanging fruits. Once you have done this, the bystanders would follow you. And the victims will also follow. Now, the critics might or might not follow. If they don't follow, their place is not in the organization. But in most of the cases, once you have your success stories, the critic would follow. So your role as a leader, understand the 4 different profiles that you have in crisis, moments of crisis, and moments requiring big changes. Make sure that you have, and in every organization, you have these 4 profiles. Make sure that you know how to work with each one of them, and make sure that you basically, at the end, align all of them. So what are the way to go about it? Kotter came in with these steps. We call it, these are the 8 steps in crisis management, or this is another framework that you could do. One is you need to establish the sense of urgency. In this case, you don't have to, it's there, but at least clarify it. What is the impact on the crisis on your organization? It's your role to establish the sense of urgency. The second one is build your, what I call, strong coalition. These are the people that are most precious to you. These are your closest advisors. These are your closest direct report. You have 3 or 4 people, and these people are here to be able to support you in good times and in bad times. Who are they? And make sure that they understand that they are part of this coalition, guiding coalition, and make sure that you provide them all the authorities and all the support needed for them to succeed. Once you have done this, your role is to set the vision. This is where we're going, this is a new set of priorities that we have, and this is how we're going to make it through the crisis. So you have to set this direction once you've set the dimension, communicate it. And I'll show you ways where you have to communicate across your different stakeholders. Communicate, and communicate. So this is very important. It's your role, especially in moments of crisis, to communicate. The 5th element here is empower the people to be able to deliver, especially the member of your coalition, but also the others. Give them the tools, give them the ways, the means to be able to deliver on what is expected from them to deliver. Once you've empowered, focus on the short-term wins. There is no more beautiful catalyst for change or for crisis than we have these successes. What are the low-hanging fruits? Come up and celebrate those wins. Because the more you celebrate, especially during moments of crisis, the more the people, they need hope. They need to have things to hang on to. And your role is to create these wins, and your role is to celebrate the wins. So this is quite important that you have. The 7th dimension is to consolidate. You're going to have improvements, consolidate them, institutionalize it, and of course, do this loop again as we go through it. So this is the 8 steps that Kotter has put together more than 25 years ago that I think are very relevant in helping you on the way to map your communication plan and to be able to share it with your stakeholders. Okay, so one tip that we have again here, when we have to communicate, and I'll share with you now who are those stakeholders, how do we map them, and how to communicate. One tip here is you say it first. Don't have the rumor mill spread. You as the leader say it first. You say it completely. Don't hide part of the truth and then you hide the others. Say it all. All what you know, say it. They would accept it, even if it's bad news. Say it yourself. Don't have other people say it for you, and say it consistently. So keep this in mind. Say it first, say it completely, say it yourself, and say it consistently. This will help you in establishing the trust and strengthening this trust. Okay, so what do we do in terms of stakeholders? The first thing that we do with risk areas is we map them. Who are our stakeholders? And these stakeholders clearly are our customers. These stakeholders clearly are our employees, our staff. You might have the government, you might have the public, depending on the size of your organization. Definitely your suppliers, who are playing an important role, and investors. It could be debt investors, it could be equity investors, it could be other shareholders that came in. So these are the most typical stakeholders that you have. You list them, and then, as we did with risk, we map them. So how do we map them? In this case, so we will map them and we'll look at 2 dimensions. One dimension of mapping is the impact. Are there little impact of the crisis? Most of them have a high impact. So how much impacted are they by the crisis? The second dimension is how much influence they have on your organization and on your risk management plan. No influence or little influence versus high influence. And you map those stakeholders. And those typically that have in this high influence and highly impacted will be the major investors, would be key partners, will be major customers, will be key staff that you have in it. For those, you come up with a communication plan that is very structured. Face to face, you involve them in the decision-making process. You come up with them and discuss on a regular basis, so they need to know. For others, it might be different. It could be a newsletter, it could be emails that you could have, it could be informing them via social media. So what you need to do is list your stakeholders, map your stakeholders, understand the needs of these 4 categories of stakeholders, and address those needs in the most efficient way possible. This is, again, part of your communication plan. So next slide is on how do you present it. My recommendation, like on the crisis management plan, like on the balanced scorecard, 1 page. 1 page to say, this is my risk. 1 page to say, this is my key metrics, this is my key milestone. Here, 1 page. 1 page which will share, this is what we call the house of strategy, or in this case, the house of strategy in crisis. What is the new vision or the new mission of the organization? What are the values in case these values have changed? What are the key strategic objectives that we have? And what will be these priorities? And for each of the priorities, we have an order, we have a timing, and here we have the supporting activities. 1 house, 1 element, and you share it across all your stakeholders that you have, your people, your suppliers, and your customers. So this is, so what are the key learnings behind this? So this is about aligning your stakeholders. The first one, as I mentioned again, and I will mention it again, is have the courage to face the mirror. Because if you want to be a good communicator, you have to be open about the reality of what you're facing as an organization. What are you facing as problems, and what are the tough decisions that we have to take? The second one is adopt a transparent, consistent, and ethical communication. Remember the words, transparent, don't hide. Tell the truth the way it is. Tell it as it comes. Don't try to hide it, because people would remember you in moments of crisis about how transparent you were and how consistent you were in your communication. So consistency is important, and ethical. Think of the people. We're going through some difficult times, even taking tough measures like firing people. If we do it in a fair way, it's much better, and they understand it and they take it. But try to be as ethical as possible in order to build and strengthen the trust with your stakeholders. Second message. The third message is understand the needs, the wishes, and values of your audience. You have different audience. They have different needs. Your role is not to have the same communication across those. It might be that for some of the audience, their interest is much more on the financial impact. On other audience, the interest is much more on the impact on the employees. The other audience might be what is the impact on customers. So you have to understand those audience, understand the needs, and respond to those needs and relate to them as much as you can. The final set, and this one is for me personally very important, is, and I thought of it yesterday and I wrote it down, is align your deeds. Deeds means your action with your words. Align your deeds with your words. If there is no alignment, people will not take you seriously. Align your words with your thoughts. So what are you thinking, and how you say it, and how you act on it are very important. The more aligned they are, the more people would trust you, the more people would follow you, the more people would do whatever they can for you and the organization to be successful. And lastly, align your thoughts with your heart. The real leadership in moments of crisis is leadership from the heart. So the alignment between the heart, the mind, the words, and your deeds. The stronger is the alignment, the more effective you'll be in communicating to your stakeholders during moments of crisis. The other one is, of course, these are traditional ones. Be engaged as a listener. Involve your audience. It's not you communicating. It's already 2 ways. So listen, ask questions, involve them, because each one of them might have a different interpretation, and by their questions you might decide that you want to adapt your communication style. Start and end with your key message, like I'm going to do by the end of the 4th workshops. I will list what are the key learning points that we have. And lastly is pay attention to the non-verbal signs. So this is important, your body language, your eye contact, all this is quite important. The more engaged they see you in terms of the tone of your voice, in terms of the way you discuss, in terms of your body posture, all these are here to support your communication style. So thank you. This is the end of the 3rd workshop. We're going to on communication and on alignment of your stakeholders around your crisis management plan. Thank you.